Welcome to Parenting Solutions for Teen and Preteen Education and Behavior, the show for parents who want real root cause solutions for learning, stress, and behavior at home and at school. Hosted by educators Mike Tyler and myself, Ryan Kimball, each episode gives you practical tools you can use right away to get results. Before we dive in, grab our free ebooks, The Parent's Survival Guide, and the Good Choices booklet. Use the click here link right in the show notes. Okay, let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Parenting Solutions for Teen and Preteen Education and Behavior. Today, we are going to tackle a subject that is probably pretty formidable to most people who experience it and parents who have children. What we're going to talk about is dyslexia and understanding, and how there really is a very simple solution that will probably solve the vast majority, maybe all of the people who are listening to this podcast and have children who have dyslexia or maybe have it themselves. So let's dive right into that. You are here today with Mike and Ryan, and we're going to cover this and give you some solutions right now. Okay, Mike, over to you.
Okay. Well, yeah, this comes up all the time. In fact, I just met a young mom a few weekends ago when I was visiting with my brother out of town. We got together, I went to a comedy club, and I just happened to be up really early downstairs in the lobby getting some coffee. And I asked this young lady if she had kids. Oh, she's got one daughter. How old? 11 years old. How's she doing in school? Well, she has dyslexia and comprehension problems. Boom. Right? I can't let something like that go. It's the simplest thing. What does that really mean? I mean, these are terms, probably medical terms. I don't even know, but it doesn't matter what the medical terminology is or the diagnosis is or whatever, because all it really means from an educational point of view is the fact that they're mixing up the letters. Okay, they're mixing up the letters. They're reading things backwards, or it's just their familiarity. The child, even the adult. I've met adults who have told me that they have dyslexia, and you go, okay, well, that just means that they haven't learned all of the letters and letter combinations and the sounds that they make, and how those letter combinations and sounds add up to the words that we use every day. And there's not like a billion of them. I mean, I had asked this one girl, can you count from 100 backwards to 0? She goes, yeah, of course. So I go, okay, well, can you count from Z backwards to A? She goes, no. I go, there's only 26 letters. Like, why? How could we not know that? Well, they don't emphasize that that's important in school. Why would you need to learn the alphabet forwards and backwards? Well, just familiarity. You can count backwards from 100 to 1 because you understand what those numbers are. And if you are really familiar with the 26 letters and the, I don't know how many there are, 50, 60, 75 letter combinations like CH, which starts out the word chew, but also starts out the word chord, like a musical chord. 2 different sounds, and these have to be learned. And they have to be learned well, and they have to be learned in a certain sequence, just like my background back here, row by row, brick by brick. You have to build the understanding of these simple words, and they get into more and more complex words. But there's not 100,000 combinations of letters. There's just a certain number. And that you can look them up. You can Google this sort of thing or whatever search you want to do. There are books that list them out. I have gobs of books, and we have books available for the parents. Free downloads, all that sort of thing. But what do you do with this? What do you do with these lists of words and letter combinations? Well, let's back it up to something that the child can read. Okay, find out where they are in this sequence of learning these letter combinations and words, and we back it up to something they absolutely have mastered and walk them forward. And we can walk them forward both by looking at text, but you can add a little bit of interest and participation by getting some Play-Doh and having them start to make letters and words out of Play-Doh. Let them wrestle around with how to make the word cat, C-A-T, right? And you could even have them write out on a little piece of paper or construction paper or something like that, art paper, the C, the A, and the T, and have them stick it into their version of a Play-Doh C, A, and T. And then they have to be able to recognize that that's the word cat. And then, boom, forward from there until they are looking at and understanding large words. They know the letters that go to make up the sounds, and they understand what the word means. Dyslexia and comprehension problems solved. It's as simple as that, one step at a time.
Awesome. Yeah, and for me, it's so interesting because I've had people I know with kids that have dyslexia or have been diagnosed with that, and it's such a nightmare. I mean, there's so much upset around it, and there's so much this child is being held back because of dyslexia and lack of comprehension. They have to go into a different class sometimes. And for the solution to be as simple as take the words they don't know yet and put them into Play-Doh or some sort of clay.
Yep.
And make sure they have an understanding and comprehension of that. And that's it. And boom, poof, it's gone. It's just, I think it's really such a service for parents to realize that and just start that simplicity going forward. Now, you say it's handled that simply and they have to understand, but let's dive a little more into how we create that level of comprehension. So as they get the dyslexia portion of the situation handled, they actually develop the level of comprehension they need to use this information they're studying.
Sure. So in one of our books, actually a couple of our books, there's this magic formula that's given for becoming competent. One of our favorite subjects at the Competence Institute, right? And teens and preteens can be brought into a level of ability simply by looking at things, actually looking, inspecting, and there has to be something there for them to look at, right? So that when we're talking about reading and understanding, we're talking about the words, the letters, but there's associated with that, there's the sounds. Okay, so you can't look at sounds exactly, but you can hear the sounds. And that's where the reading out loud comes in and practicing saying those words. And that's the second part of the formula. It's look, learn, and practice. Or that's the third part of it. It's lots and lots of practice. They have to be brought about an understanding by looking at the words, looking at, in some cases, the expanded, the Play-Doh, or you can use wooden blocks, right? Anything to give a little bit more hands-on, something that they can actually see and look at, something that's got some physical mass there, right? And so then it's learning that this is the word. This is the word cat. This is the word, when they get into bigger words. We're not going to go into a terminology or a vocabulary lesson here, but big long words. The vocabulary itself, wow, that's a mouthful and quite a lot to look at. And then what does that mean? And what's the difference between vocabulary and nomenclature? I mean, this is like high school level stuff, or maybe it's only junior high, right? I probably didn't get into differentiating between those things until probably high school, but I didn't really learn how to study until in my 20s, and hence the passion for addressing the teens and preteens who can just be taught so easily to decipher the English language, right? By looking, learning, practicing reading out loud, practicing pronouncing these things correctly, clarifying what exactly does that mean and why does it mean that? Where did this word come from? Or who came up with the idea to call this thing that, or this action that, or describing something that way? That's where we get into derivations, and there are different levels of address, different books that start very simple and get very complex, and you have to go simple so that understanding is 100% at all times.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. One thing that I love seeing is when somebody gets these simple basics in, all of a sudden, complex topics they couldn't understand or weren't smart enough to figure out kind of fall in their lap, and they're able to move towards that higher education that a lot of people are interested in for their children, or just an ability to be competent in life and achieve what you want to and learn how to think and all of that. Can you speak a little bit to how solving dyslexia and comprehension at an early age allows a person to really come into their own and become who they want to be as a young adult?
Absolutely. A young child going to school is usually just at the receiving end of being taught certain things. But when you teach a child at that early age, preteen, early teens, how to study, how to attack things that they want to learn, how to look up information and clarify and gain the knowledge and go scattering through books searching for things, you've put them in control of what they can learn. And so if they're interested in sports, they can pursue that. If they're interested in music, they can pursue that. But they're doing it from the perspective of they're going to go out and study that thing. Okay? It's a totally different thing than just being walked into a classroom and we're now going to teach you this stuff. You go, oh, and there's going to be an exam and it's very important. And it's like, well, right? This is how it goes from about third grade on. No, you can put the child in charge of their own reading. Make it so that they're comfortable with raising their hand either in class or at home or asking questions, clarifying what things mean. They're adding to their vocabulary and they're plowing through books, hopefully lots and lots of books. And we're creating someone who loves reading, loves finding out new information, and then their own natural interests will just guide them through. They'll guide them through the library or the bookstore or wherever, and they'll choose their own books, and they should be allowed to choose their own books and read what they want to read, and always just coaxed or encouraged that what is it about that's interesting, and you can guide their interests and help just feed their interests so that they are falling in love with learning, and that's how it's done.
So cool. Great stuff. Well, let's bring it back to, since this is supposed to be, we're like, okay, dyslexia, yeah, that's no problem to handle, and we get off onto other things. But most people who are experiencing this is probably a major thing. Well, I know from the people I've known that it's usually pretty intense for the child and for the parents and whatnot. So to wrap up, let's summarize. Parent has a child who has dyslexia. What is the formula? What are the kind of 1, 2, 3 steps that parent would do with their child in order to solve this situation very simply and straightforward?
Okay, so the first thing is we have to back it up. You'll hear us in almost every episode, every little sound bite that we create. It's always about backing things up. Backing things up to something that the child can do. Okay, let's find out what they can read and read simply and give them some wins or successes in reading books of that level. Okay, I've had adults, 18-year-old high school graduates, 18 and up, of course, high school graduates going back and reading children's books just to get familiar with reading at that level. Right? So many instances of like give them some successes, give them some wins, and then you just build it up from there. What are they having trouble with? Now, parents don't always have time. I can tell you that the young lady that I met who single mom, she's got an 11-year-old daughter. She's sending her daughter to school thinking that they're going to teach her child how to read and understand things. And it's not happening. The mom's working 2 jobs. She doesn't have unlimited hours to spend doing this sort of thing. But it's amazing how much a little bit of work pays off, because we're not talking about rocket science here. Okay, we're not trying to teach the child how to join Elon Musk's SpaceX program this week, right? What we're trying to do, there's 26 letters, and I think if I recall, it is somewhere in the vicinity of about 75 different letter combinations that need to be learned. Well, 1 or 2 per weekend. If they're reading at all, they're already somewhere on that scale, right? They've learned some stuff. Well, good. Let's validate that, and let's validate the fact that they can learn. Let's not get into these labels of like, well, they're a slow learner, they're this or that. It's like that's not helpful. That's just an invalidation of the child. They're not a slow learner or a fast learner or anything. They're just a person who either does or does not have familiarity with what's in front of them. And let's back it up to something that they do know and walk it forward from there.
Simple, easy to do. Like you said, couple of weekend, and in a 6 months time, there's more than half of those letter combinations mastered.
Correct.
Nice. Great. Okay, there you go, parents or young adults, if you're listening. That is your simple solution for addressing and handling dyslexia, with cutting back where the person's at, finding out what they can do, moving forward from there. And I love the use of Play-Doh and putting things in some sort of clay form. That's always really helpful. So thank you for listening today to Mike and I go over how to address and handle dyslexia and bring up comprehension in your child. We look forward to seeing you, or you listening to us, in the next episode. Have a great rest of your day.
Keep on learning.
Thanks for listening to Parenting Solutions for Teen and Preteen Education and Behavior today. If today's episode helped you or resonated with you, please share it with a parent who needs to hear it. And don't forget, you can download our free ebooks, The Parent's Survival Guide and the Good Choices booklet. Just use the click here link in the show notes. We'll see you in the next episode.